Have you ever walked into a room and felt like everyone turned to look at you, but you hadn't said a word, or sat in silence, and still someone confessed their darkest truth, as if your presence gave them permission to be real? That's not coincidence. That's not luck. That's aura. And if you don't understand it yet, don't worry. Most people never do. You can't fake it. You can't force it. Because it's not about your looks, your money, or your charm. It's about presence, stillness, depth. It's a quiet force, one that can't be explained, only felt. And the rarer it is, the more intense its effect. Carl Jung wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." That's what most people never do. You feel different. You notice things other people miss. The cracks in a smile, the fatigue behind excitement, the sadness behind laughter. You've seen too much to play the surface game. You walk through life like someone carrying ancient knowledge. And even when you don't speak, people feel it, because your energy speaks louder than words. But no one talks about this. They call it being too much, too intense, too quiet, too mysterious. Let me ask you something. Why does society only celebrate the loud? Why are people comfortable with charm, but terrified of depth? Because depth requires reflection, and reflection forces truth. And most people would rather drown in noise than hear their own mind. That's where you come in. You don't chase attention. It finds you, not because you ask for it, but because people can't ignore what feels ancient, like you've been through fire and didn't just survive, you were reforged. That is aura, and it's rare. You don't try to be magnetic, you simply are, because you see what others pretend isn't there. And when someone sees through masks, it shakes people, even if they don't know why. Let me be clear. You're not better than anyone else. You're not special because you suffer, but you are different because you've integrated your shadow. You've made peace with your monsters. You've touched your own chaos and didn't run. Most people are afraid of their darkness. You've had dinner with it, and when you walk into a room, that truth walks with you. That's why people pause. That's why they project. That's why they trust. Because deep down, something in them whispers, "This one sees me. This one knows." You don't have to speak loudly to be heard. You don't have to perform to be seen. You are seen, even in stillness. And it terrifies those who have never met themselves. So if you've ever wondered why you feel out of place, why small talk exhausts you, why people open up to you without knowing why, this is why. You don't carry noise. You carry truth. You don't entertain. You awaken. You are a mirror people didn't ask to see. And a mirror will always make liars uncomfortable. This isn't easy. You will be misunderstood. You will be judged. You will be lonely. But you will be real. And in a world addicted to illusion, real is rare. That's your quiet force. That's your unexplainable gravity. That's what Jung understood. True power doesn't need to announce itself. It just stands in silence, and the world feels it. So if you're reading this and it feels like I'm speaking to your soul, it's because I am. Welcome. You're not broken. You're not lost. You're just rare. And the world isn't used to real ones like you. Have you ever felt like you were watching the world from behind glass? Like everyone was playing a game, and you were the only one who could see the strings? Not better, just awake. That isn't arrogance. That's awareness. And it's not always a gift. Seeing what others deny doesn't earn you applause. It earns you distance, confusion, sometimes resentment. Because most people don't want to see. They want to survive. And survival often means lying to yourself just enough to keep moving. But you can't unsee. You notice the fake laugh in a crowded room. You catch the micro-expression that says, "I'm not okay." You hear the words they didn't say, and the weight behind the ones they did. You see the cracks, in systems, in smiles, in stories everyone else clings to. Carl Jung once wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But that privilege comes with a price. You become more isolated, not because you want to be, but because so few are willing to meet you where you are. When you see what others deny, you threaten the comfort they've built their lives around. You become the mirror they don't want to face. Have you noticed it? People retreat from your honesty. They laugh nervously at your clarity. They call you intense, dramatic, overthinker, because they'd rather label you than question themselves. But you're not broken. You're just real. And real scares people who live in masks. Here's the brutal truth. Most people don't want truth. They want affirmation. They want comfort. They want the illusion of certainty. But you were never built for illusion. You don't just want peace. You want depth. You want meaning. You want the kind of clarity that cracks open your chest and exposes what's raw, what's aching, what's true. And yes, it's heavy, but it's also holy. You are wired for truth, even when it hurts, even when it costs you connection, even when it makes you question everything you've ever known, because you've tasted real. And after that, anything fake makes you sick. You've had moments, fleeting but unforgettable, where you saw beneath the surface of someone, where a glance, a sentence, a silence revealed more than hours of conversation ever could. And in those moments, you felt seen too, not just for how you act, but for who you are beneath the armor. That's what you crave, not just intimacy, but truth, the kind that doesn't flinch, the kind that doesn't need filters or footnotes. But here's the catch. Seeing what others deny means you carry what they refuse to. You hold the weight of questions that keep them up at night. You dissect the beliefs they inherited but never examined. You challenge the assumptions they swallowed just to belong, and they'll hate you for it, or worse, pity you, because they mistake numbness for peace. They call their cages freedom, and when you rattle the bars, they don't thank you, they resent you. But don't let that kill your light. There's a reason you were made this way. You're here to pierce the fog, to speak the unspeakable, to carry the questions that scare others into silence. Not because you have all the answers, but because you're brave enough to ask. Soren Kierkegaard said, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards." And your backward gaze, the one that seeks to understand, to unravel, to unlearn, that's what makes your forward steps more real. Don't numb it. Don't shrink it. Yes, the world will offer you distraction, comfort, fake smiles and shallow praise. But if you accept that in exchange for your truth, you'll always feel hollow. You weren't made to conform. You were made to awaken, to disrupt, to illuminate, to remember what others have forgotten, that there is power in seeing clearly, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. So when they mock your intensity, wear it like armor. When they question your silence, know it's deeper than their noise. And when you feel alone in your clarity, remember, you're not broken, you're early. They will catch up, or they won't. But your path, it's yours to walk, and the view from where you stand, it may be lonely, but it is also real. And in a world of illusion, that's the rarest thing of all. Have you ever walked into a room and felt eyes on you, even when you said nothing? Have you noticed the shift, the subtle tension, the polite smiles that seem a little too forced, the way people adjust their posture around you? And have you ever wondered, why does your presence make people uneasy? You're not rude, you're not loud, you're not even trying to be noticed. But they notice. They notice because you carry something rare, an energy that doesn't beg to be seen, yet cannot be ignored. You don't follow the script, and that makes people nervous, because most people survive through masks. They become who they think the world wants them to be. They trade authenticity for acceptance. They laugh when they don't feel joy. They stay silent when they want to scream. But you walk in truth, even when you don't speak it. Your eyes ask questions without words. Your silence speaks louder than noise. Your presence doesn't fill the space with sound. It fills it with awareness. That's threatening. People feel naked around you, because your stillness mirrors their chaos. Your honesty confronts their lies. Your calm challenges their need for noise. You don't play the game. You observe it, and that alone makes you different. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." You've taken that seriously, but don't be surprised if your courage unsettles those still hiding. This world isn't built for self-awareness. It rewards conformity. It applauds obedience. It fears the one who questions. And you question everything. You see through smiles. You sense hidden motives. You pick up what others pretend isn't there. It's not that you want to be different. It's that you've always felt different. Even as a child, while others played, you observed. While they followed, you asked why. That questioning never left you. And now, it lives in your aura, that rare blend of presence and perception. It's what pulls people toward you and pushes them away. Because let's be honest, not everyone wants to be seen. Not everyone wants their mask noticed. Not everyone is ready to face what you represent. You don't just walk into rooms. You shake the emotional furniture. They feel it, even if they can't name it. They say things like, "You're intense. You're intimidating. You're hard to read." What they mean is, "You reflect something in me I'm not ready to face." It's not your fault. It's your depth. You're not here to fit in. You're here to awaken. Even when you don't try. Even when you just stand still. Because there's a fire in you that doesn't burn to destroy. It burns to reveal. You see what others deny, and that sight carries weight. It's not an easy gift, but it's a powerful one. And maybe you've wondered, why do people ghost you? Why do they act warm one day and cold the next? Why do you often feel like you're too much or not enough? Here's the truth. You're not too much. You're just too real. You stir what's sleeping. You disturb what's pretending. Because you don't need to say, look at me. Your energy already whispers, see yourself. And that's terrifying to those still lost in distraction. But don't dim your light to make others comfortable. Don't shrink to fit small conversations. Don't pretend to be shallow just to avoid their discomfort. Your depth is a gift. Your presence is a mirror. And mirrors don't lie. Jung wrote, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. When you make people nervous, you're not causing harm. You're sparking awakening. Even if they don't thank you, even if they walk away, you're a reminder that truth still exists, that authenticity still breathes, that it's possible to live without pretending, and in a world addicted to appearances. That's radical. So don't hide. Don't water yourself down. Don't become who they can tolerate. Stay rare. Stay clear. Stay honest. Because the world doesn't need more charm. It needs more truth. And you were born for that. You were born to see. You were born to feel. You were born to shake the room without saying a word. That's your power. That's your aura. Unapologetic, undeniable, unforgettable. Have you ever been in a room full of people and still felt alone? Not in a sad way, not in a desperate way, but in a way that told you were built differently. You watch, you listen, you observe, and while others rush to fill the silence with noise, you find something sacred in the stillness. You don't need constant connection. You don't chase company just to escape yourself. That makes people uncomfortable, because most of them, they don't know how to be alone. They fill their days with distractions. They fill their nights with people they don't love. And the moment silence creeps in, they panic. But you lean in. You embrace solitude not as a punishment, but as a form of power. Because here's the secret. Solitude sharpens your perception. It trains your intuition. It quiets the world so you can finally hear your own voice. And when you return to the world, you don't return needy. You return grounded, clear, whole. Carl Jung once said, loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you. You know that truth because you've lived it. You've tried to open your soul and watched others recoil. You've tried to speak from depth and been met with small talk. So you pulled back, not out of arrogance, but out of survival. Because shallow conversations don't nourish deep minds. You learn to be alone, not because you hate people, but because you value peace. Because your energy is too valuable to waste on noise. But let's be honest, sometimes even you wonder, am I too distant? Too cold? Too intense? The world makes you question that, because it glorifies hypersocial behavior. It celebrates constant engagement, and it mislabels solitude as loneliness. But solitude isn't emptiness. It's full of reflection, full of clarity, full of the kind of inner work most people spend a lifetime avoiding. You've walked that path. You've faced your shadows. You've confronted your desires. You've asked the terrifying questions most people drown in pleasure to avoid. And because of that, you're different. You don't bond over gossip. You don't chase surface validation. You don't say things just to fit in. You prefer silence over noise, truth over comfort, stillness over chaos. You walk alone, but not lost. You withdraw, but not out of fear. You choose solitude, not because you're broken, but because you're building something inside you that doesn't need applause to feel real. Most people run from themselves. You walk toward your own fire. That's rare. That's intimidating. That's what makes you glow in a world obsessed with artificial light. But here's the paradox. You embrace solitude, yet you still long for real connection. Not popularity, not attention, but truth. You want to be seen, fully. You want to meet another soul and not have to shrink to be loved. You want intimacy that isn't afraid of your intensity. And that's the real struggle. Because most people haven't done the inner work to meet you where you are. They confuse your depth with darkness, your quiet with coldness, your discernment with judgment. So they leave, or you do, not out of bitterness, but out of honesty. Because nothing feels worse than pretending to be someone else just to keep someone around. You would rather be alone with your truth than surrounded by people who only love your mask. So what do? You wait, you refine, you grow, you stay true to your path, even when it's lonely. Because one day, someone will recognize the language of your solitude. They won't be afraid of your silence. They won't mistake your intensity for a threat. They'll sit with you in that quiet, and finally, it won't feel like solitude anymore. It will feel like home. Until then, you don't need fixing. You need honoring. Your solitude is not a flaw. It's a signal of your strength, of your insight, of your refusal to settle. You don't crave less noise because you're antisocial. You crave meaning. You crave depth. You crave the kind of connection that doesn't require pretending. And that begins with solitude. So when people ask, "Why are you always alone?" tell them, "Because I know myself well enough not to fear it. And because I'm waiting for a connection that doesn't ask me to become someone else." You walk alone, but you are not lost. You are rare. You are ready. You are real. And in a world that fears depth, that makes all the difference. Have you ever walked into a room and said nothing, but still changed the energy? That's not arrogance. It's not magic. It's presence. And if you felt it, that subtle weight of existence you carry, you know it's real. Even if others can't explain it. Even if you can't explain it. But let me tell you something few people will say aloud. If you have this kind of presence, you're going to feel lonely. Because the rare are not loud. But they're felt. And the world is loud. Noisy. Filled with performance. With masks. With noise for the sake of attention. And you don't scream. You observe. You sense before you speak. You sit with discomfort instead of filling it with distraction. That makes people uneasy. It makes people project onto you. Are you angry? Are you judging me? Why are you so quiet? They don't understand that stillness isn't judgment. It's depth. Carl Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And becoming who you truly are often means becoming what others aren't prepared to understand. Your silence is not emptiness. It's containment. Your solitude is not isolation. It's protection. You have a different kind of energy. One that doesn't demand the spotlight, but reshapes the room once you enter it. And no, it's not always easy. You'll be misunderstood. You'll be underestimated. You'll be labeled cold, arrogant, aloof. But what they miss is the storm inside you. You feel everything, but you're not owned by it. You notice the details, the micro-expressions, the discomfort in someone's laugh, the loneliness in someone's eyes. You see what others skip. You hear what others filter out. And sometimes, you carry more than your share of pain, because you refuse to go numb. You know what it means to hurt, without weaponizing it. You know what it means to want connection, without begging for it. You know what it means to walk away, not because you don't care, but because you care enough not to betray yourself. That kind of energy isn't teachable. It's born in suffering. It's carved by experience. It's earned in silence. And so if you find yourself asking, "Why can't I fit in like others? Why do I see things they don't? Why do I feel so different?" Remember, you are not broken. You are rare. And rare things are not always recognized. Not immediately. Because most people are trained to see noise. Not depth. Performance. Not presence. But the few who get it, the few who feel you without needing you to explain yourself, they are your mirror, your home, your reminder that you were never alone. You were simply early, ahead of your time. So don't water yourself down. Don't pretend you're not moved by things others laugh at. Don't dull your instincts to match someone's comfort. You were not built to be average. You were not made to blend in. You were made to hold space, to shift the air, to remind people, without saying a word, that there's something deeper than they're living. And sometimes, your greatest impact will be in the moments you say nothing, but make everyone feel something. You don't have to be loud to be powerful. You don't have to be seen to be undeniable. Because the rare are not loud, but they are felt. And so are you. So walk like the energy you carry. Stand like the truth you know. Live like the fire that shaped you. Not everyone will see it, but the ones who need to will never forget it.